You're tuned in to a one-take
podcast production.
What's up? I gotta start this show off by saying, what is going on, world? That's what my man would say. This is another One Take Podcast promotion. This is the relaunch, so we are calling this show Just Shoot. And I have the privilege today to be joined by a fellow podcaster who's a syndicate of One Take Podcast, who done some work previously with our lost loved one, Brian Meeks. But I have none other live from the Critters Den in sunny California, the Bay Area, my man, Brendan Critter. What's up, Brendan?
What's up, man? Not too sunny here these days. Very cold.
I guarantee you your cold is not Michigan cold. Like, we sitting at 32.
No. My cousin went to University of Michigan. I know it's not that cold.
Yeah, we sitting at like 32 degrees right now. Like,
yeah, we're in the 50s. We're in the 50s.
32 degrees cold, and right now in Michigan, as most of you guys may know, our hearts are hurting. We found out that Calvin Johnson is pondering retiring. What's your take on that from a football fan that's not a Lions fan?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, there's some hardship on the Raiders side. I'm a Raider fan, and Calvin Johnson, of course, everybody will remember. Many people remember he was the number 2 pick in the NFL draft the year he was came out of the year he came out of college, and the number 1 pick was Jamarcus Russell, as drafted by my Raiders, and it was the second year in a row that a guy who's probably going to be a Hall of Fame wide receiver was missed by the Raiders, the other being Larry Fitzgerald, so we could take a guy that we hoped was going to help our team. But Calvin Johnson, as far as mulling retirement is concerned, that's rough for you guys as Lions fans, because, man, that's the second time that would have happened. A guy that, you know, was a superstar, mega player, leaving your team when he was still young, and now saying, you know, I don't even want to try to play for another team. I just want to get out of football and be done with it. If he actually does retire, on one hand, you want to say, hey, got out without, you know, all the problems and all the issues. But on the other hand, of course, you know, that leaves the team kind of in the lurch, superstar player being gone. Although I will say Golden Tate may be enough to somewhat offset that. He certainly has played well the last few weeks. Yeah, Calvin Johnson, I hope whatever happens, I hope it works out for you guys. I hope he decides to go another year, or actually, personally, I wish he would just come over and come back to where he should have gone and be a Raider to begin with. But I'm sure you don't want to hear that. But no, as far as him retiring, hey, if he does, he does. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it will be a sad day, because once again, there goes the old adage saying, history repeats itself, and that was exactly what that would be. Because Barry did leave around the same time. Calvin has taken a beating since he's been here. The team has done very little to go forward with Calvin. I think I seen our record is like 55-94, and I joked today, like, they're like, well, why you think Calvin want to retire? And I'm like, maybe because he's tired of not knowing what's a catch and what's not a catch. Like, the Lions have had some shit calls go against them, and, you know.
Boy, is that a fun one, that lovely little we don't know what a catch is thing that the NFL thinks. They can't figure this thing out, and every single week you see it, and it's annoying. You know, we've had it happen to us. A lot of teams have had it happen. It's ridiculous.
I tell you what, I guess while we are in this zone, if there's one fan base that understand when I say the referees call the most unheard of calls, let's not forget last year we heard a call in the Lions playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys where they said he was face guarding the guy, where he didn't turn around, but he was face guarding. The second worst call to the face guarding was my favorite player of all times, number 24, Woodson in the tuck rule.
Yes. Oh, you're gonna stab me in the stomach, huh?
So,
Okay.
so you know the pain of a call being made up on the fly.
Yeah. Oh, and there's been many more. I mean, the Raiders' history over the years has been that, because you want to say whether it had something to do with Al Davis or whoever it was. There's a fumble from a game against Denver where they were trying to get into the Super Bowl. This is back in the 70s. And the fumble happens, and the officials have even admitted that there was no fumble. That the guy fumbled and the Raiders should have had the ball, but they said he was down. There's that. There's all kinds of these little, ticky-tack things that they've called on the Raiders over the years. We call them Raider calls. We call them Raider penalties, Raider calls, and the biggest one you just mentioned is the tuck rule. Those are the people who don't know what that is, and I'm surprised you don't. But that's a play in the we're playing in the conference, the second round of the playoffs against the Patriots in the snow in Foxborough. Charles Woodson sacked Tom Brady, knocked the ball out. Greg Biekert, our linebacker, picks the ball up, and the Raiders should have been able to get rid of, salt what was left of the clock and end the game. But then out of nowhere, the referee comes out and says, no, Tom Brady tried to, fake that he was going to throw the ball. He brings it back in. He tried to tuck it in, and because of that, it's an incomplete pass. I go, how can it be an incomplete pass if you're trying to tuck the ball?
Right. I was a big Raiders fan at that time. You had Tim Brown, Jerry Rice. You had Chucky Gruden as the coach. You had that high-powered offense with Rich Gannon. The running back, if I'm not mistaken, was Tyrone Wheatley.
Tyrone Wheatley and Charlie Garner together.
Yeah.
Which was a heck of a 1-2 punch. You got a guy out there. Garner was as good a receiving running back as you had in football at that time, and Wheatley was a beast, getting up the middle. Great offense. Could definitely have won it, had they gotten through that game. But, man, it's just one of those things, And then, of course, the NFL, what about 10 years later, decides, this tuck rule is bullshit, so we're just going to get rid of it. It's not real. We made it up, or we threw it out there. It doesn't make sense. Nothing happened. But how do you make a call like that in a playoff game? Yeah,
that is absurd. Now, we had to talk football. See, I know as we did our pregame for the show, you said you wanted to be surprised. So I know you didn't think I would open up the show straight with a football question because we didn't discuss that. So I did give you what you asked for.
Not at all. Don't worry about it.
Now, we were texting, getting ready for the show, and we talked about what was announced yesterday. If you haven't been paying attention to the sporting world, the Hall of Fame for MLB was announced yesterday.
It was.
And I'm going to start off by saying I think it's bullcrap. I don't agree with it. I love the two players that are going in, but as a fan,
no diss on Griffey or Piazza. Both guys deserve it.
Yeah, but as a fan of the sporting world, I don't just stop at football, basketball. I watch hockey. I watch baseball. As we're going to get into later on, professional wrestling, UFC. I watch anything that pretty much has a referee or umpire.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, me too. I'm not as into hockey, although I do enjoy it around the playoffs, but everything else I'm into.
And you sit here and tell me millions and millions of people have suited up and played, which was once America's pastime. It's a reason it has passed the time, because these baseball writers, these old school baseball officials are stuck in their bleeping ways. It is no reason that you have a Hall of Fame class of 2 people. And then you sit here and tell me, if I'm not mistaken, and you can't correct me if I'm wrong, someone like Nomar Garcia-Parra can never go back on the ballot.
Or Jim Edmonds, who was literally one of the best defensive center fielders and a hell of an offensive player, too. He's off. He's done after 1 year. I think he got like 3% or something, 2%. And he's never going to get another shot at it unless the old school players put him in. And no, the writers system is ridiculous. Because these guys don't have they don't know. I mean, they may have written, they may have covered the game, they may have written about it, but at the end of the day, the real truth of what makes these guys, the players that have been playing are the ones that the Hall of Famers, the top players, the coaches, whatever you want to call it, they're the ones who should be the ones deciding.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's no way you sit here and tell me the strike was 92 or 94?
The strike was 94, and actually, to get back on something you said a minute ago, there was actually a few years ago when there wasn't even a guy that went in.
Yeah.
You think 2 is bad? You think 2 is bad? A few years ago, nobody went in.
And how was that? You go to the strike of 94. Baseball was at an all-time low. They missed a year. I'm sorry. I understand how some people may feel about the steroid era. And I get that. I totally get the steroid era. But my thing is, if it's not for the juice, baseball is still suffering the same way hockey has not recovered from the 05 strike of hockey.
No, not at all.
After the 05, it may have been 06. I know some of the guys going to tweet or text me, you got it wrong, whatever one. It was in that time frame. But when hockey went on strike, it lost its ESPN deal. I used to grow up watching ESPN National Hockey Night. I bought the video games. I watched ESPN National Hockey Night every night. It lost major deals. Like, you can turn to SportsCenter right now. Right now, football is not going on because it's a weekday. It is NBA and hockey time. You can watch ESPN SportsCenter the whole night and see one hockey highlight. Where you go back to 2002, 2003, you've seen hockey highlights. So baseball needs to understand that Big Mac, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro, who was accused, Barry Bonds, who was accused, all of those guys that were accused, if Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa don't go ape shit crazy slapping the leather off the ball that summer,
right,
we're not caring about baseball.
No, you're right. 1998, the summer of '98 was that was the place, man. That was when it happened. That was the time. Baseball was absolutely in the doldrums after the '94 strike, and it was 1998. It was McGwire hitting 70 and Sosa hitting 66 that brought it back, and that's absolutely right. And you cannot sit there and go, well, just because these guys were pumped up on steroids, hey, nobody, as a Raider fan, nobody takes the 1983 Super Bowl championship away because of Lyle Alzado, with all due respect, God rest his soul. Nobody takes the, he admitted he was on steroids most of his career. I just don't get it. I agree with you big time.
And it's like, regardless of, it's like, what they were doing. 9 out of 10, you were turning a blind eye. You know why you were turning a blind eye? We're going to use a wrestling term. My man Jim Ross coined this term. They put a butt every 9 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
So you didn't care. You didn't give a care what they were doing. I mean, you had McDonald's commercials where Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were calling their shots. Baseball was at an all-time high. It made baseball come back.
Well, as a wrestling fan, you had Mark McGwire hanging out with Goldberg.
Yeah.
When Goldberg was a big deal.
Baseball became relevant at that time. It became a must-see sport again. But baseball, I'm sorry, I will say this. You guys are on a slippery slope, the same as boxing. You're going to go from America's favorite sport, and you're going to keep getting passed up by football. Because at one point in time, football could not touch baseball. You're going to keep getting passed up by football. The NBA is slowly catching you. Hockey is stuck still, but you are going to constantly trail the NFL until you get things right. You only put 2 people in, and look at the ones you left off. First of all, I don't care what you say. Barry Bonds is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Before the juice allegations, his numbers alone